What's up YouTube, this is the Federation here and I'm back with another Rome 2 video. This one is not going to be a battle, it's going to be a guide, I guess you could say, on how to counter sword spam. And so actually before I get into the video, I just want to go over a quick counter that I've recently become a big fan of that I haven't seen used too often in other people's videos. It could be a pretty well-known counter that I just maybe haven't been aware of, but anyways, thought I would mention it. If you see an opponent bringing horse archers, one of the best counters you can bring, and I'm just going to quickly grab, Sluicid should work. If you see an opponent bringing horse archers, just bring yourself a couple of skirmisher cav, horse skirmishers, or Tarentine cavalry, preferably Tarentine cavalry or something like that, although these two will also do the trick. And the reason for that is that even though these guys have some pretty similar armor and defense stats to horse archers, the damage they do is a lot quicker. They will have less ammo and less range, but they will do that 41 missile damage with the horse skirmishers, or the 29 missile damage, but a lot more armor piercing damage than arrows on these, what are they called, skirmisher cavalry. And so if you just kind of chase down the horse archers with a jav cav, they will counter them quite nicely, and it should be a pretty cost-effective trade for you. You'll only lose 10, maybe 15 of your jav cav and take out the entire horse archer unit. So that's just kind of a fun counter that I found. If you're scared that your opponent's going to be bringing 3, 4 horse archers, yeah, just bring your jav cav. Especially Tarentine cav can be quite useful, pretty much in any situation. So yeah, anyways, bigger concern than horse archers in today's meta is certainly sword spam. Bowie I would say are one of the more common factions for it. Rome is pretty common. So what I've brought here is just kind of a kind of typical build you would see with sword spam. You've got a couple of Levy Freemen, a large number of the mid-tier swords, about 4, I rarely see more than 4 mid-tier cavalry in these sword rushes, a couple of meat shield units, and then of course your general. The preferred general for these armies, I've normally seen strategist, which is a change from the meta I'm used to being commander, and I think the reason for that is now going to be because the effects that something like Headhunt has, where it will, in the long run, take some fatigue from your general. So what they'll do is they'll pop Headhunt early on, use that second wind and get it back, and then their general is fresh and good to go. Then also Battle Rhythm can help turn these melee grinds, whereas when Rome 2 used to be played, it was very important to be able to have your commander be able to rally and raise the banner, keep your troops in the fight a little bit longer. I still personally prefer commander, but maybe that's just because of my old style. So anyways, these builds have become incredibly dominant, almost to the point where they're unstoppable in a lot of people's minds, almost worse than the meta was in earlier patches where people would spam a lot of cavalry, a lot of shock cavalry, a lot of cataphracts. I would say those types of builds were a lot more stoppable than this type of build. And so I think that it's important to learn some of the counters for that. And so I've spent a large amount of time in multiplayer battles coming up against people who play this kind of build, and I've worked on a couple of builds that I think might not be the exact kind of style you want to use against a sword spam, but they'll certainly give you some ideas for what kind of approach you could take to this kind of battle. And so the first one I'm going to go over is a Carthage build. And so elephants are awesome. They recently, that happened, General's Bodyguard not a general. Anyway, that's not important. Kind of cool. But I guess that just happened. Anyways, elephants are kind of one of the best counters to infantry spam now, since the most recent patch, patch 16, which gave them a little bit of a buff, much needed. And the reason for that is because they can just kill at will. As long as they're moving, they'll kill. Whatever they walk over is pretty much dead. And so the theory behind this build is really to maximize these elephants, maximize their effectiveness. And so keeping in mind that the opponent's going to have at most 4, maybe 5 mid-tier cav, this cav force is intended to not only meet those cavalry and kill them, but also to leave you with cavalry left over to sweep into the backs of skirmishers. And so you'll see these noble cav, although not the most cost-effective cavalry, are still going to be pretty deadly at taking down enemy cavalry, and that's because of their 10 bonus first large, their 63 charge bonus, and they have pretty alright melee attack and weapon damage. Not great, but these guys will win against most barbarian mid-tier cavalry, probably all mid-tier barbarian cavalry. So they're going to be handy to bring, and then also once you clean up their cavalry, they can be used for rear charges in case somehow your elephants die and you need some other kind of killing power, which the hoplites won't really provide. These Iberian cav are absolutely excellent for cleaning up skirmishers. You may not even want to engage them in the cav fight at all due to their low armor, and they're so fast moving. They've got 50 melee attack and 39 weapon damage. Absolutely one of the best units, either for landing rear charges or for cleaning up lightly armored units. Really recommend these guys. Great units. So one of the key things for having elephants is you need to be able to engage all of your opponent's infantry that can possibly throw javelins or range of any kind, and I mean all of them. You can't have any of them lying around, or else since that fire at will update, they will be able to run your elephants amok very easily, and that can be deadly since they'll run off the field, maybe run over your own men. You need to make sure that they don't have the opportunity to do that. And so Carthage is a great faction for this because they have these 300 cost late Libyan hoplites with 80 armor, 39 melee defense, and pretty solid morale at 45. For a 300 cost unit, these are great. So bringing a nice core of these late Libyan hoplites will allow you to engage and hold the enemy's infantry for quite some time, especially if you get into hoplite wall, and that should give you time that you need to maneuver your elephants and get the charges, and they'll hold for a while. There are 2 late Carthaginian hoplites which can possibly hold more dangerous points in your line. If, say, you're coming up against Oathsworn, they can go toe-to-toe with the Oathsworn, and they certainly won't win, but they'll hold for quite some time. These Samnite warriors, I take them over the Libyan infantry. They have a little bit less killing power, but a lot more armor. And so, as you can see, about 20 more armor and 4 more melee defense. They're going to be great both against missiles and for just holding. They will kill much more than a hoplite, but their specialty is really holding. And so this army is going to allow you to hold back the amount of swords that the Boii can throw at you, since this army has 11 melee units, which I believe the Boii army had about the same, maybe a couple more. Maybe one more actually. But then again, that's not going to be the exact build you're facing, just kind of similar. So you can hold almost all of their units and win the cav fight. Start getting some rear charges, take out any skirmishers they might have, and then unleash these beautiful beasts and hopefully be able to clean them up before they wipe out your Libyan hoplites. So that's the idea behind this build. The Spartan build is actually something from a long time ago when I played a battle against a guy who I'm not remembering his name, but he showed me a way to use pikes that I've never really seen before, and that's intrigued me ever since. And so here we've got Royal Spartan General, and Royal Spartans, I should mention, I recently tested against Oathsworn, and when I put them into Hoplite Wall, they beat the Oathsworn. Now I will throw a disclaimer out, which is that I was playing against just the AI. The AI was set on normal, so there were no stat boosts on either side, but it's possible the AI might have been pulling away or doing something stupid. The AI also used Headhunt on their Oathsworn, which tired them out, and so later in the fight my Royal Spartans were able to gain the advantage. But I do think that that's interesting. They can at least match them pretty closely. So these guys are a great unit, and pretty cost effective for that $12.50 price tag. So these guys will be able to help you hold the line. But these pikes, Perioikoi pikemen, incredibly useful. You could also do this with Levy pikemen, but I really like the Perioikoi pikemen as a unit. And so what you do is you line up your Spartan hoplites in front of them, and then directly behind, almost on top, you put your Perioikoi pikemen, so that the pikes actually protrude through the front of your Spartan hoplites. And you do this once your hoplites are already engaged. And so once the enemy is frontally engaged with your Spartan hoplites, if you push these pikes up behind, suddenly they can no longer really get into the hoplites, and instead of killing the hoplites, they'll get jabbed by the pikes. And it's really hard to pull out of, because at the moment they turn their backs, you send some attack orders with these hoplites, and they'll get some your opponent will get some penalties for pulling away from the fight, and the hoplites can get some kills. It makes it very hard for your opponent to deal with. Then having this nice little skirmishing component of the army, you can get some kills whenever the opponent tries to pull away back out of this pike fight. And these 3 Tarentine cavalry will be quite effective at taking down heavy horse with their hit-and-run tactics. You can also leave these Perioikoi hoplites in behind just to protect your skirmish corps. And so that strategy of kind of overlapping your pikes through your hoplites could be very deadly for taking out a sword rush. It certainly slows them down, gives your archers and slingers some time to fire, and at that point, hopefully you might be able to turn the battle. This final one is the type of build that I've always been a fan of in Rome 2. It's certainly, if I had to pick an army composition type that I felt most comfortable with, it would certainly be a Parthian or Bactrian skirmish build. This is much less powerful than it was in, say, patch 14, and I will 100% admit that. But I still personally think it has more than the capability to take down sword spam, and so why is that? It's got these 4 Eastern Cataphracts, which, if you get a nice charge and the opponent's line's not 5 or 6 men deep, you can just pull right through the unit and take very few losses after the charge, since you'll knock so many down. You don't even need to use Trample, and you can do that. Royal Cataphract General, especially with Strategist, you can use the second wind, get a trample charge, absolutely wipe them out. Their cavalry won't stand any kind of chance against Eastern Cataphracts. Mercenary Sarmatian Horse Archers, great unit with that 40 missile damage, only 360 cost for Parthia, which is notable, since for Bactria they cost 380. Very, very strong unit, and especially at Barbarian Infantry, less so with Roman Infantry, but with Barbarian Infantry, firing into the flanks ideally or the back, you're just going to tear them apart, and for only 360 cost you can easily take down a 760 sword follower if you're firing at the right angles. So these guys are going to be great. Then these Eastern Slingers, in my opinion, are currently the most cost-effective skirmishers in the Rome 2 roster for any kind of faction that you could choose. These guys and Britain Slingers, pretty similar units. That 23 missile damage with, I believe it's 5 armor piercing, could be wrong, 6 armor piercing actually, but really cost effective. The core of these guys just firing and kiting, low armor, so they'll easily outrun any kind of sword follower, chosen swords, anything like that. And then you have these Eastern Spearmen, and their main purpose is if you mess up with your micro and you let your Eastern Slingers get caught, you can charge out an Eastern Spearman and you lose 180 talents worth in order to pull out your Slingers, while the Eastern Spearmen just kind of hold down whichever unit caught your men. So, as I said, these are not 100% the only way that you can go about countering sword spam. These are not the exact way you should go about countering sword spam, but this is kind of ideas that I have, things I've tried that have worked for me, and they might be able to guide you in a direction that could lead to your beating a faction like the Boii, or Nervii, or Arverni, or Rome even. This Parthia build I would feel very confident taking against the heavily armored Romans. They'd get tired so quickly that I would feel that I have a very good chance with this build. But hopefully we can find ways to start breaking down the meta of sword spam, because it bores me. In my opinion, sword spam takes much less skill than some of the older metas, like with the Parthian Horse Archers cavalry. That at least took some micro. With sword spam, you just select your entire army and right click on the opponent's infantry and then sit back while the fight grinds out and win. And that's no fun to me, and arguably it wasn't very fun either when elephants and chariots could run right through enemies, or when you could trample charge right through Praetorian Guard, and I agree with that, but I really hate to see a simple right click with a chosen swordsman dictate the battle. So hopefully these types of builds can hope to turn that on its head, and I await patch 17 and to see what kind of changes that will bring to the game. If you guys have any other suggestions of things that have worked for you for countering sword spam, please feel free to leave them below. I hope this video helps you in your future battles, and I will see you all next time.